Welcome back to TV Toastmasters. I'm your host, Erik Bergman. I'm from We Toasted Toastmasters in Lake Oswego. And tonight I have a special guest who's going to tell how a medical diagnosis that seemed very unfortunate has turned into something very gratifying, very satisfying, and life-changing, for not only for him, but for many of his friends too. My guest is Baron Robison. He's the CEO of a nonprofit that's dedicated to Kickin Cancer. Baron, welcome to TV Toastmasters. I can't wait to hear your story.
Well, thank you, Erik. It's good to be here.
A few years ago, your sister, Brenda, received a diagnosis of cancer, and she's given permission for you to talk about this in public, so we're not revealing any secrets that she doesn't want told. Go back and set the scene as to how you heard about her diagnosis, and then how you and she started working together to help others who are facing this disease.
My sister lives in Mesa, Arizona, so I heard about it, through a phone call and email. How she found out is actually a very interesting story. She had watched a video called The Truth About Cancer, which I would tell anybody, you can find that on YouTube. It's called The Truth About Cancer. She had watched this docu-series thinking someone in her life might need to know this information. Mm-hmm. At the same time, her husband, who is a venture capitalist, was trying to raise money for this gentleman who had a machine called a thermography machine. So they had gone to LA, and the premise of the thermography machine is that you just sit in it. Cancer has a hotter signature temperature, so it tells what section of your body might be extremely hot, and then would tell you that you might possibly have cancer. It's very non-invasive, and so to demonstrate it, Brenda said, here, I'll sit in it, show you how easy it is. She sits in, they do the whole thing. A couple days later, the guy calls, he says, did you know that you have cancer?
Oh my goodness.
And that's how she found that she had cancer.
Wow.
She had no idea, and the only way she knew is because she sat in that machine to demonstrate how it worked. So it turns out that she had a very radical form of breast cancer, and she had it cut out, so she had a radical mastectomy. The problem is it was here, and it had jumped into the lymph node system, and they checked the lymph nodes, and one of them had burst open, which means that it's now floating in her bloodstream. Mm-hmm. And the type of cancer she had was not receptive to chemotherapy. So she has to fight it through diet and exercise. And she has a very strict regimen that she goes through, and she shares that kind of on her Facebook page. But she had done all of this in Arizona, and we had just talked on the phone and whatnot. She came to visit Christmas of 2017, and I could tell that she had been exercising, and she was very, very good shape, and so we just chatted, and then she flew home. In January, a year ago, a friend of mine had mentioned this thing called the Warrior Dash, which is held down in Canby in May, and it's basically a 3-mile course with 12 obstacles, and it's very muddy. It either has water, mud, you climb obstacles, so there's air and there's some fire involved, so they have all the elements. And I called Brenda, I said, this sounds like fun. She was 51, I'm 54, it's not like we're not young kids doing this thing, but I said, it sounds like fun. Do you want to come do this? You're in good shape. And she said, sure. So she was going to fly up, and I work at Costco, so I went to work at Costco and told one of my coworkers about it. He says, well, that sounds like fun. Can I join you? So 2 became 3, and we realized we had Team Brenda. Within 10 days, 3 had become 25 people that had verbally told me they were going to do this with me. And I thought, well, maybe when Brenda comes up, I can send her home with a little bit of money to help with the ongoing cost. So I established a GoFundMe account, and I thought, well, it's not going to do any good if nobody knows about it. So KGW actually ran a story a year ago to tell this whole thing, which there's a link to that on our helpteambrenda.com site. So you can still see that interview that Tracy Berry did a year ago. But it just slowly began to snowball, and I didn't expect it to, but it did.
So your sister, due to her diagnosis, started carefully watching her nutrition and exercising to fight back in natural ways against the cancer. But this had an effect on you too, and it began to help you take a new approach to your life and your health.
Yeah. Yeah. Before that, I had actually, I'd allowed myself to get out of shape. I had a grandson, and I wasn't able to play with him like I wanted to. And so I thought maybe I could make some changes myself. And I also knew that to do this Warrior Dash, I was going to have to get in shape. So I began exercising, getting ready for it. And it has just been a 180-degree turnaround from where I was at a year ago. Just change in diet, change in exercise, and then feeling better about my life at 54 years old.
Great. So the good news was spreading. Now you mentioned how often Western medicine, our modern medical system, wants to cut cancer out or burn it out. You guys had a different approach, and you had the idea of the anti-cancer diet or the anti-cancer life. Maybe talk a little bit about that, please, and what that means.
So one of the things that Brenda discovered in her research was that there's a lot of chemicals inside of food that will fight cancer naturally. One of them that most guys should know about, there is a chemical in tomatoes called lycopene, and prostate cancer specifically does not like lycopene. So I eat a lot more salsa than I used to.
Yeah.
There's a chemical in broccoli called sulforaphane, and cancer in general hates sulforaphane. So what Brenda does is she makes a salad and she puts broccoli sprouts on her salad because the sulforaphane is the highest inside of the sprout, and then she eats that as a salad.
Yeah.
But now you're fighting cancer internally through the diet and the chemicals that you're putting inside of your body. I learned this several years ago. My father-in-law was diagnosed with prostate cancer in the 90s, and before the internet and all that waste of research, he found out about this lycopene, began doing salsa, lived 7 years longer than his diagnosis, and I attest it to the lycopene and the tomatoes.
Right, so diet and good exercise can really help. Of course, I would say anyone thinking that they might have cancer should certainly go to a medical specialist for their case and follow the doctor's orders. But these are some things that any one of us could do to stay in better health and build up our immunity to fight a disease through prevention.
Right. And by no means, as a nonprofit, as an organization, are we trying to tell you not to go to your doctor, because we're not doctors, and I would never tell anyone to do that. I'm just saying that there are other options.
Yes.
And even if you get a cancer diagnosis, you can still fight it, like my father-in-law did, through your diet. He got 7 years longer than he was supposed to. There's a great story in this book about a guy who got a diagnosis, made some lifestyle changes, lived 20 years longer than his expectation was. So lifestyle change is the key to prevention and ultimately fighting, even if you do get it.
Great. So you guys did the Warrior Dash. That might have been the end of it, but it wasn't. What happened next after that run through the mud down in Canby that kept this movement going?
So when we did the Warrior Dash, we actually had 42 people show up with a really bright pink t-shirt on. We had this very unified look. And like I say, it would have ended right there. I went back to work at Costco. One of my coworkers said, it's really cool what you did for your sister, because I just found out that I have cancer in both breasts, and she was going to have a double mastectomy. So I called Brenda and I said, why don't we do the Spartan? Now, anyone that knows anything about obstacle courses, the Warrior Dash isn't really difficult. The Spartan is a whole different creature. It is held outside of Washougal. It's on a BMX course. So the very first thing is you go up a hill. It's about that steep for about a quarter mile. It's a very physically challenging course. But we both decided, let's try it. Let's train for it. And we decided to dedicate our training to my coworker, whose name is Leticia. And so Go Team Leticia was formed. And just beforehand, when Brenda flew up to do the Spartan, we put together a fundraiser and we just shared the profits of the fundraiser. Brenda took part, Leticia took part of the profits from the fundraiser. And I looked at her and I said, you realize that we're helping people. they're changing their diet, they're exercising, do these things with us. We just did a fundraiser. So in July of last year, we actually formed a business called Help Team Brenda with the objective of helping people in their fights against cancer. But that was a not-for-profit business. All the profits went to help other people out.
Great. And so that led you then further to keep doing these events, these physical challenges, learning the stories, hearing the stories of more and more people living with cancer, and it snowballed from there, didn't it?
It did. It did. The summer, just the month before we did the Spartan race, a gentleman said, "Would you take one of your T-shirts to this lady I know? Her name is Victoria Shin. She lives there in the Salem area, and she is a survivor of stage 4 breast cancer that metastasized to her bones and her liver." And for those that understand cancer a little bit, those vital organs are typically a death sentence, especially if it's stage 4. She is 100% cancer-free. The lesions on her bones are healed. It's truly a miracle. Well, I met this lady, and it touched me. I'm like, we're meeting people who are truly fighting their cancer. They're not just saying, "Oh, I'm going to die because I have cancer." And so we began telling more stories. I met a lady whose husband had brain cancer. And so I said to Brenda after the Spartan, I said, "Let's do another fundraiser. Let's help this lady whose husband has brain cancer." And as it turns out, he actually passed away before we could do the fundraiser. So at 35 years old, this lady was now a widow with a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So all the money we raised, that we gave to her. And that was Go Team Rob. And I realized, you know what, this is really doing some good, but it's still kind of small, because people can donate a little bit of money, but if you're a 501c3, you can make bigger donations and write them off on your taxes. And so all of a sudden I realized, if I want to do what I want to do on a bigger scale, I need to morph this thing into a nonprofit.
Great, and you'll have time to talk about that after our break. We're going to take a brief break. We'll be back soon, so stay tuned to TV Toastmasters.
Hello everyone, my name is Christopher Taylor and I'm with TV Toastmasters. My home group is Feedbackers in Beaverton, Oregon. I first joined Toastmasters for a couple reasons. I was nervous. I had trouble speaking in front of others. I needed some help. And when I joined Toastmasters, not knowing what to expect, I learned several things. One, it gave me the confidence to speak in front of others. I learned how to take constructive criticism. I benefited from that. That benefit was the confidence to get a job. When I took the suggestions in the club, when I started speaking in front of a group and remained speaking through my role, doing table topics, getting topics that you're unaware, learning how to think on your feet, learning how to speak on your feet. I first started working managing the Berkshire Hathaway account. I started as a back office role, not the face of the company. It didn't take long until I was dealing directly with the executives. Today I give executive briefings for Verizon Enterprise in the highest level in the enterprise space. And I'm grateful, and I owe all of that to Toastmasters. Thank you.
We're back with TV Toastmasters. I'm your host, Erik Bergman, and my guest is Baron Robison. He's been telling us about his efforts to fight cancer through diet and exercise and the anti-cancer lifestyle, and he has formed a nonprofit to help others live with their cancer. Now, Baron, you have one advantage over some people who might be forming a nonprofit in that you're a member of Toastmasters and you've been learning the leadership and communication skills that Toastmasters teaches. How did those skills help you when you went to form a nonprofit, which was a new thing for you?
Very new thing for me. Most of my adult life has been in the for-profit world, so there's been a lot of learning that has had to occur. And one of the things I learned, I think, from Toastmasters, from the leadership side, is just to ask questions, find people that have the answers, listen to what they're saying. I think those evaluation skills became very valuable. I realized that I didn't understand budgets. Nonprofit budgets are different than for-profit budgets. So I found someone who understood, and I just sit and took notes and listened and began to learn how nonprofits function differently than for-profits. And then I had to communicate what we're trying to do. I mean, if you have a mission, no matter what your nonprofit is, you've got a mission you're trying to accomplish. If you can't communicate that, you're dead in the water. So both the leadership side of building this was by no means an HPL project, but it's kind of become that. But it's that same leadership that it takes to run a club or run an organization is what it took to get up and running.
Right. Now, your nonprofit has a very important mission. Can you tell us the mission, please, and why that matters to you?
So the name of the nonprofit is We Are the Solution, United to Prevent. And the reason that is so powerful is because our mission is empowering people to take control of their own bodies and then significantly reduce cancer as a gift to future generations. It's our belief, both the board and the other members of the nonprofit, that we can kick cancer, but it's not going to happen today. It's going to be a matter of changing the mindsets of a younger generation. They have to think about food differently. They have to think about sugar differently. Cancer feeds on sugar. And as a nation, we consume way too much sugar. So we're feeding those cells exactly what cancer wants. So really what I'm trying to do is get that message down to that 15 to 25-year-old age group. If we can change their mindset, that'll make a big shift. One of the powerful statistics I read in this book is in 2017, which was the last statistics that the American Cancer Society had, there were about 1.7 million new cases of cancer and 600,000 deaths. So more people are getting cancer than are passing away, and that gap is getting so wide that they project that in 20 years, 1 in 2 will have cancer. So either you or me, one of us will have cancer if we don't do something differently within the next 20 years. So our mission is to get that message out to that younger generation and begin changing mindsets.
Right, so there's a big education component there with your nonprofit. Let's see, what was that enough that you had to say about the mission? Was there anything more that you needed to say about that to share?
Well, that's the key of the mission. We really only have 3 programs. Well, right now we have 3 programs within our nonprofit.
Okay.
One of them is actually the education part. We call it the Eat and Do program because really it's about eating real food and doing some movement. So we do free clinics and we teach people about these concepts. We have a program where we support people. We call that the Go Team program, where we can support people who are battling cancer. And then we have the Help Team Brenda program, which is doing fun events like the Warrior Dash. And those 3 programs, when they all converge together, then that is really the essence of our mission statement, which is to love one another, support one another.
Right, and your mission literally is partnering to significantly reduce cancer as a gift to future generations. That's such a great, great goal. And I see in front of us, there's some of the things you have here are to support that cause. Maybe you could talk about these fine pieces of apparel you've brought and which you're modeling tonight too.
I'm modeling one, yeah.
Kickin Cancer.
Kickin Cancer. So the original T-shirt said Kickin Cancer with a picture of the donkey. I didn't ever want to put a nasty word on the shirt, but that was kind of the feeling that we all had, was that we were mad at cancer.
Yeah.
There were people that were slightly offended by it, so we took the word "in" the off. So now we're just kicking cancer, and we just happen to have a donkey doing the kicking.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't want to wear T-shirts, and so I said, let's develop a little bigger product line. So we do have the T-shirt still with our wonderful donkey on it.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's wintertime, so we developed a sweatshirt, which I didn't bring with me, and then a beanie hat. And we do have this in a white and a black as well. And then we have the regular hats for people who just want a regular old hat.
Yeah.
And then these are actually sweat pants that people can get. And that down the side of the pant, it actually says, "What's up?" which is the acronym for our nonprofit. But the one that I like the most is actually the one I'm wearing. We call these honor polo shirts.
Right, yeah.
So everyone that knows someone that's affected by cancer can actually honor their loved one. So this is a model, but this would be if someone was named Mike, and Mike had lung cancer, which by the way is white. That's why it says, so lung cancer is white. So you would get a polo shirt in the color of the cancer that your loved one had with their name on it. If they're a survivor, you add the word survivor. If they're not, you just take that off and you just say honoring Mike. Mm-hmm. My wife has one that's purple because her best friend died of pancreatic cancer, so it says honoring Victoria. And we've sold several of these to people who have bought them for loved ones. And they're a nice, classy looking polo shirt that you could wear to work or whatever. Plus it gets our message out there that we're kicking cancer.
And you can find information about all these products on the website, which is helpteambrenda.com.
And then we also have a Facebook page,
yes,
which is We Are the Solution at Facebook. The tricky thing is you do have to put a little hyphen between each one of the words, so it's we-are-the-solution at Facebook. We're utilizing our Facebook page to become a voice, so we put different blogs, we share other people's stories on there. It's just a big voice of what is out there that people don't know about. We're trying to be a megaphone for all these different organizations.
And it seems you're trying to unify and bring people together and bring information together from a number of sources all about that anti-cancer lifestyle and ways that all of us can support the people around us who have cancer or who maybe need to be informed about the ways to avoid it.
Right, right. One of the links we just put up on Facebook is about a young man named Chris, and I can't remember his last name right now, it doesn't matter, but his spot is called chrisbeatcancer.com, and he has a blog. He goes in and talks about what he did to beat cancer. So we shared his link on our Facebook page. We also put a link to The Truth About Cancer, which is an amazing documentary. And the information's out there, but people don't know where to get it. And we're just trying to help get that information to the public. Along with we share stories of survivors, we share stories of people who fought the good fight, and then just fun activities. We just put some stuff on there about come join us at the Warrior Dash this year. And we put a link on how to get to the Warrior Dash.
Right, because you're continuing to do those adventure type obstacle courses of various kinds.
Yes.
And your group also puts on workshops, is that true the case?
Yeah, we have a workshop planned in Salem at the end of March. And the workshops are free, so donations that come to the nonprofit help pay for the venue and speakers and all that kind of stuff. So those donations keep that education to the public. And so we have one coming up at the end of March.
In about half a minute, how could you sum up what this experience has been like to you?
Life-changing. Where I am now compared to where I was 18 months ago is nowhere. I would never have envisioned myself being the executive director of a nonprofit. I would never have thought I would have learned as much about cancer as I have. What I do know is that as soon as Brenda said she was ready to share her story, she said, everybody's story helped me, and if my story can help somebody else, great. And as that began to grow, the reason we said we are the solution is because collectively, all of us working together, that's the solution. And we're just excited to share everybody's story. Everybody has a story. We want to share it.
My guest tonight has been Baron Robison. He's working to fight cancer through a nonprofit, and you can find out more information at the website helpteambrenda.com. And who knows, maybe you need one of these fancy pink hats that's going to help everyone kick cancer. I'm Erik Bergman, and that's all for this segment of TV Toastmasters. Join us again another time.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Harmon. I'm a member of TV Toastmasters. In this club, we have an opportunity to practice speaking before the camera as well as running the equipment room. If you're interested in being interviewed on TV Toastmasters or becoming a member, please go to Toastmasters.org and look for us, or simply search for TV Toastmasters on the web.